Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of my Future Mind series, where I speak about the psychology behind future readiness. Let me start by asking you a simple question. When you look back at the year, say the year gone by, 2024, and think about how many of your ideas have changed through the course of the year, are you able to think of many? Okay, let's go back 5 years, back to 2020, the year of the pandemic. And now, if I were to ask you to think about how many of your own ideas have changed, how many of your own routines have changed, behaviors have changed, can you think of many? My sense is you probably could. We all know those people who have been doing everything the same way for the last 20 years. Within organizations, when there are talent conversations, very often these people are described as being people who are rigid in their thinking or very fixed in their thinking. We do know that in a fast changing world, one of our greatest assets is actually being cognitively flexible or being able to move between different ideas with ease. There are many different forms of cognitive flexibility. Switching tasks through the day, that's also an act of cognitive flexibility. Being able to hold your discomfort while navigating uncertainty is also a form of cognitive flexibility. But those are topics for another episode. What we're going to speak about today are two very specific dimensions of cognitive flexibility that are directly linked with your capacity to deal with a very fast changing world. The first is one that we're all familiar with but don't quite understand: unlearning. What is unlearning? If unlearning was simply about forgetting old information, trust me, I would absolutely be the king of it. I forget things all the time. But in fact, unlearning is a much more complex process. It is about holding your old ideas or your old ways of doing things to the side, taking in new information, new ideas, and then allowing your mental models or your ideas to grow with that new information. It's a much, much more active process. Unlearning almost makes it sound like, okay, I just have to keep that to the side and I'm done. No, it's about engaging with the world differently and forming a new set of mental models. Something replaces what you already had. The second one, which we particularly come across in our consulting practice, is perspective taking. Now, we find that what drives the success of senior leaders is very much their ability to take many different perspectives on the issue. So, for instance, if you're going to be successful as a senior business leader, say for an engineering firm or let's say a technology company, your ability to see the same conversation from the point of view of your client, your supplier, your marketing, your engineering team, your operations team, and perhaps any other stakeholder is core to your capacity to create a solution that matches everybody's needs. So, perspective taking and unlearning are two very, very important dimensions of future readiness for all of us. So, why is all of this so hard? Its roots actually lie in neuroscience. Would you believe me if I told you that there are at least 5 areas of your brain that are activated every time you're attempting a task that needs cognitive flexibility? Now, granted, it's a little bit different from one task to the other, but right from the much spoken about prefrontal cortex, the dopamine system, your default network, something called the ACC, your basal ganglia, a large part of your brain is actually involved in any task that requires cognitive flexibility. It is not as simple as simply making a switch. And that's actually at the heart of why very often leaders, organizations complain about resistance to change. Resistance to change comes from the fact that, yeah, people do stand to often lose something when there's a change, but it also comes from the fact that it is effortful. And I wish we would just recognize that it is effortful, because then it normalizes the conversation around how hard change can actually be. And it allows those of us for whom this isn't very instinctive or natural to do something about it and develop our own capacity for cognitive flexibility. So, what is it that you can do to start developing your own cognitive flexibility right after you watch this video? Let me give you 2 simple exercises. Exercise 1: take anything you do routinely through your day, whether it is the hand you hold for brushing your teeth, whether it is, whether you walk right in the park when you go for a walk, or whether you start your walk from the left, the park you walk your dog in, or anything that you do routinely, and try doing it in a different way tomorrow. The exercise will challenge you in ways that will be very interesting to notice. And there is research, actually about 12 years ago, 2013, by a psychologist called Diamond, which shows that as we get better at practicing switches, we become more better at all adaptive tasks. So think of this as a way of future-proofing your mind. A second exercise, which is actually a little more challenging, is around perspective taking. So I'm going to ask you to think of a topic from a lens which is extremely divisive. So let's take the role of women in society. And let's say you're a traditionalist. I'm going to challenge you to think about the role of women in society from the lens of someone who is a progressive or a liberal. Similarly, if you're a liberal or a progressive, I'm going to challenge you to think about the role of women in society from a traditionalist perspective and see if you can come up with many reasons why it makes sense from their point of view. None of this is easy. I absolutely recognize it. But it is this kind of skills, talent, psychology that we are going to need in order to be successful and thrive in a fast-changing world. So I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.